Rightio guys, welcome on into Geographically Challenged. This is a very sad day because this will be the last episode of Geographically Challenged. And that is because Geographically Superior is jumping on in. We're starting Geographically Superior episode number 1 coming at you from Australia and India and Mongolia. Shout out to the Mongols for making the grand final. We are no longer Geographically Challenged. That title goes to North America. And Asia is on top, or at least as on top as we've ever been, basically. So shout out Mongols one time.
Yeah.
Fantastic result at the major. We're going to be talking all about that. And then a couple of other things as well that have popped up over the last week or so. But before we do get too far into all of that, once again, we have to give a quick shout out to SkinClub, who, by the way, sponsor this show, but they also sponsor the Mongols. So shout out them for hard carrying Asian Counter-Strike. But if you're interested, what is SkinClub? Well, they like to sponsor us, and they like to make some content and stuff like that. So we make some content for them over there on their SkinClub platform. So you should go check that out. There will be a link in the description. They can also offer some case opening and stuff like that. If you're so inclined, of course, you have to be over 18 to get involved in all of that. But links in the description. Make sure you check them out. And we do much appreciate the support of SkinClub, as I'm sure both, I think Vitality at one point as well, or maybe still are sponsored by SkinClub. So pretty much they're kind of just dominating as far as Counter-Strike is concerned. But guys,
most dominant podcast, most dominant team of all time. You know, it makes sense.
All coming together.
It is. It's all coming together for Asian Counter-Strike as well, guys. I don't believe that we're in this position. You know, I made a tweet the other day about the very first episode that we ever recorded of this podcast. That was just over 5 years ago. I think it was early June or like May sometime back in 2020. And the first episode...
During COVID?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. That was why we started it, was because... you know, we were never getting hired for majors. We were never getting hired for minors, more so specifically. And we're like, man, I feel like somebody who knows something about Asian Counter-Strike should probably talk something about Asian Counter-Strike, because all the people who got hired for minors were obviously European commentators, and they would come along and they would cast the games. But it was pretty obvious that they didn't necessarily have their finger on the pulse, so to speak. And so we're like, you know what, we'll school some people. And then the way we did that was by starting a podcast where the title was Asian CSGO is in a bad place. And I think the argument there was that it was in the worst place it had ever been at that given point in time, which was obviously not a great way to potentially start a podcast. But here we are, 88 episodes later, and now 5 years later, and there is an Asian Counter-Strike team that has made it to a major final, which I don't think I thought I would ever see in my lifetime. At that time, I thought Asian Counter-Strike was probably going to be dead in a year or two. We were just going to do this podcast for fun. It was just like a bit of a thing. Yeah, I honestly never thought I'd probably even see a team maybe even make the playoffs again. Certainly not within the next 5 years or so. So I'm super stoked at how things have gone this major for Asia in general. But yeah, look, there's obviously a lot more things to talk about beyond Asia as well. Like Vitality have obviously pulled together a bit of an era. We can talk about that. I mean, there was Pain that did really, really well for themselves and stuff like that.
I feel like
where do you want to start,
every podcast is going to be talking about Vitality, right? So I want to talk a little bit about what Mongolz have done here. And look, just to add on to what you said right there, because when we started doing the podcast, it was 2020, right? Online era. Tyloo were struggling, the usual, the two top Chinese teams. Mongolia really didn't have anything happening, right? We had some of the checkmate guys later on, who would form the core of the Mongols. But even then, they were super young. We saw a lot of these online games. The Thai scene was still pretty active. And we were like, yep, there's nothing happening right now. Event-wise, there was nothing happening, right? Performance-wise, nothing really happening. And the biggest hope we could have had was, hey, maybe we can have a team maybe in a top 10 in the next 6-7 years, hopefully. But a thought of like making it to deep run into major and shit, that was like unthinkable, man, at that point in time.
Are you talking back when we started the podcast?
Yeah.
At like the time was like Tiger, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
In the COVID era, Tiger was kind of like competitive at some of those online RMR events and that kind of stuff. That was kind of the team that we were like, oh yeah, this team could be pretty good. They might even be better than some of the Chinese teams, which didn't end up really proving out. But they did have some decent results at times. So there was like some promise there, but could definitely not have expected that it would be like the tier like 2 Mongolian or tier 2-3 Mongolian players that would end up having this big of an impact. I never would have guessed that.
No, certainly not. So look, let's obviously talk Mongols and their playoffs run here at the major. as we all know, they made it through to that grand final. And I think when the playoffs started, most people were non-believers, or not necessarily non-believers, but they certainly didn't have the same kind of belief that they did by the time the Mongols made it to the final. I remember looking back at there's like these lists of all the talent and the content creators and whatnot who made the pick'em videos and did the pick'em tweets and stuff like that. And I would say probably, what was it, like 80% of people had picked FaZe. Now, I know that a lot of people, and I think yourselves included maybe, got on that like hype train just because, okay, the FaZe storyline was so big and kind of cool, and the bandwagon maybe was
it's also
something.
because no one was gunning for a diamond, because everyone had failed some stage, so they're like, you know, fuck it, we're just gonna ride the vibe check, or ride the vibe train rather. I swear to God, if any of these motherfuckers were online for a diamond coin, they would have gone with Vitality 100%.
No, but I mean, even in the Mongols game, that's the more interesting point for me here, because I actually think the general consensus was FaZe were favorites in that matchup. Which kind of surprised me a little bit. Like, I understand the reasons for it, because Mongols had been playoffs chokers prior to this point and whatnot. But obviously, I'm a Mongols picker in the playoffs. And by the way, I got 3 out of 3 on the playoffs. So I actually managed to secure myself a gold coin after failing literally every stage. So shout out me one time. But I think generally speaking, the actual sentiment was that FaZe were the favorites going into that matchup, which, like I said, kind of surprised me a little bit.
I don't know why. I don't know why you're surprised. I feel like for the Mongols.
Yeah, I don't think it's that surprising. Like, I think it was not just like that. The playoffs choking versus like playoffs performing team. It's like major pressure. All of those players are like known to perform in those circumstances. They just beat them at the end of the Swiss stage. There were so many factors that would lead you to believe that FaZe would probably win that quarterfinal. But I think like the thing that Mongols definitely had going for them was like, exactly what we said in the last podcast, and what ended up like turning out to be a little bit true in this series is just like, if you talk about like a no pressure game, like base level of both of these teams, like you would definitely put Mongols as the better team by like a reasonable amount as well.
Yeah.
So I think that ended up proving out. Like, this was a pretty close quarterfinal that could have gone either way, but Mongols, I feel like, came out like ahead in more of those kind of circumstances, and their base level overall was good. But the more impressive thing is all of the storylines and all of the intangibles, like how they were able to overcome the crowd, they're able to overcome that playoffs pressure. It was amazing.
I think that's the one thing, I hate, right? I hate when it comes to even on the desk, even community figures or whatever, when you kind of try and paint a false narrative just to cater to something, right?
Yes.
FaZe were absolutely the favorites in that matchup, talking about intangibles, as Pilski said right now. If it comes down to just, raw skill and ability, sure, it might edge it away Mongols. But what have Mongols done since they started reaching playoffs of S-tier events? I'm talking about Shanghai Major. I'm not going to count on the pick, because obviously didn't have, big name teams over there, or Yalla. Since then, they've only beaten 3 teams in total. That's it. Of all the playoff games they've had, they've beaten Aurora twice, Eternal Fire, who also struggle in playoffs. And the only legit win, in my opinion, they've had is against Liquid, who didn't even fucking, make it deep in the major at all, right? And Liquid, where it was 9-10, having a fucking god tier map on Inferno, which sealed them the deal. Apart from that, Mongols haven't done anything in the playoffs to make me believe that they should be coming in as the favorites. So the fact that they're able to dismantle FaZe in the way they did, bringing it back on Anubis, FaZe's map pick, where they lost to in such a one lopsided fashion in the group stage, and get their map, making it a 2-0 against FaZe, who have that crowd buff, who have all that going for them, makes it even more impressive. It makes it so much more commendable that they were able to pull this one off. And by the way, first time that the Mongols were going up against a hostile crowd, by the way. It is a fucking massive crowd, and loud crowd as well. And yet they didn't flinch. That is kudos and credit to Mongols. And that's what people have kind of failed to get, right? The narrative's like, no, they did not come in as the favorites. And that's a cool thing, because they still won. How is that not fucking cool, guys?
No, I mean, look, to be fair, to be honest, I mean, I think there was definitely a lot of arguments for FaZe, but my take on it was that I kind of thought now's the time for the Mongols. Do you know what I mean? Like, I had seen enough slow progression throughout this season that made me think you know what? Because of this favorable bracket draw, there is a chance that this actually happens. Like, I know FaZe are a very experienced 5 core, but they were a bit shaky in some instances in stage 3. We saw some of that shakiness. And I thought, look, at the base level, again, Mongolz are, at least to me, a better team than FaZe, as long as they play to that base level. And yes, they haven't, generally speaking, been able to do that in playoffs. But we had, as you've said, Bleh, seen a couple of wins. The one in Melbourne in particular, for me, was kind of like a bit more of a focal point, just because that was a fairly high-pressure game in the sense that they really did get pushed in that one. And I thought they've obviously now played a major on stage at Shanghai. They have that level of experience that at least they can come into this major and say, okay, we take some learnings from that and actually manage to, transition that into something pretty solid on the stage. And if they were going to do it anywhere against anyone, okay, maybe you would have said potentially like a Pain or maybe a Furia, maybe might have been a better draw for them, I guess. As was evidenced, obviously, by the fact that they were able to beat Pain a little bit cleaner than they did FaZe. But at the end of the day, this side of the bracket, and this is what I was saying in that last episode, where I was like, based on a potential favorable bracket draw, it is possible for the Mongolz to make a grand final. And I did mean that when I said that. I know that probably most people at that time would have looked at that and gone, that guy's capping, Mongolz making the grand final. What an outrageous prediction. But my genuine belief was that was possible depending on the bracket draw. Now, would that have been the case had they been on the other side of the bracket? Let's say we swap Na'Vi and we swap Mongolz. Do we then have that same storyline? Probably not. Not at all. Not especially if they
very unlikely
play against Vitality. Maybe even the likes of Spirit and Mouse. Would they have beaten Spirit and Mouse in the quarterfinal? That's a tougher sell. That's definitely a tougher sell.
I feel. I mean, obviously, this is speaking with hindsight, right? I feel they would have a 50-50, a 45-55 chance, pretty close of beating Spirit. But I don't think against Mouse and Vitality, I doubt it, dude. I think Mouse and Vitality are just a step above Mongolz. They can take a map as they did against Vitality, right, on Mirage, for example. I just don't feel like they have the depth in the playbook and a map pool for these two teams in particular. And these are like top 2 teams right now, right? But apart from that, I feel like they're going to beat almost everyone else, if you ask me.
Yeah. No, I mean, look, it would have been certainly a lot tougher on the other side of the bracket. But anyway,
but these are ifs and buts.
Exactly. My point is that I think they got the planet's almost aligned for the Mongols to be able to do this. So we do have to give them some credit, but obviously we also have to look at it and say, they were on a favorable side of the bracket, definitely, and there were certainly a lot of factors that came together for them to be able to make that grand final. But you can't take away from the fact that this is the first team from Asia that made it to a major final ever in Counter-Strike Global Offensive onwards, and also have done it from a region of like 4 or 5 million people.
3.4. 3.4. It's not even 4. It's insane. Look, for me, we can always we can spend a lot of time delving into, they played Pain, who were a little fortunate, they got the win over Furia. They shouldn't be here in the playoffs. Let's be real about it, and then they beat a FaZe with a stand-in, with a Simple who went sample, on that game. Let's be real, who's missing so many shots. Even I was like, what the fuck's going on here? But for me, it's more about, I look at some of the playoff brackets they had in some of the PGL events, right? Cluj-Napoca, I'm looking at Bucharest and events like that. I've seen some of the playoff brackets they've had in the other SR events I've had this far. They were easy playoff brackets. These are playoff brackets that should be making a run for, and yet they struggled. So for me, it's not about, sure, they beat weaker opposition, but the fashion. I made a tweet about it as well. Coming up against Pain, they were absolutely the favorites, but for me, it was like, how did they get the win? How did they beat Pain? Bro, they just smacked them. Like 13, I mean, they didn't 13-0, but it was like, 0-5 on map 1, then 13-0 straight after that on their map. Just complete destruction, right? That, for me, was the shift in the mentality for the Mongols coming into, like, we don't give a shit now. Like, they've grown mentally. So even if it was a better team, I think, let's say, even if it was, let's say, a Spirit, not a Mouse, but let's say there was a Spirit or even a Na'Vi, I feel Mongols could have made it super competitive and gotten the win 100%. I would put my money on them to get that win, because it feels like, and I said this as well, Jordan, like the last podcast, they seem to have this tendency every 6 months to break that ceiling. Yeah. And the last time they did this was in Shanghai, hit the playoffs of a major S-tier event, just playoffs throughout, stagnated, and all of a sudden this major, everything kind of came together. right? It's just that
exactly.
It's just that you had to go up against probably right now an era-defining, once-in-a-lifetime sort of lineup in the form of Vitality. But keeping that aside, I think they've broken that barrier, man. For me, they are a contender team right now.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. There's no doubt about that. I mean, I was just like surprised here as well, by the way, that not a single person on Pain even went positive in that series. That just goes to show you how dominant.
Destroyed.
I mean, NQZ went even 27 and 27, but that's crazy numbers actually coming out from that matchup. But yeah, 100%, I agree with you. Like, I think at this point now, there's no real argument against the Mongols being a team that cannot make it in these playoffs, cannot make it a potential grand final win. You look at, again, how this one played out. And I mean, that first map against Vitality was just absolutely stunning. And that map, I honestly started to believe. I was kind of like, if they play this well, they can beat anybody in the world. That much is very obvious. Now, again, the caveat being Vitality is a team that has these sort of crazy resets from one map to the next. And we did see that in the end, the Mongols kind of got a bit battered on Dust 2 and Inferno. But at the very least, the fact that they were able to do that, what they did on Mirage, and make it clean as well. It wasn't even close. It was like 13-5 it was. So
I'll even tell you what went wrong for the Mongols. Right, map 1 broke. I think it was 0-5, and the first round they won, I believe it was a 3 versus 5 or a 3 versus 4 for the Mongols. But watching them slowly deconstruct the round, and I think it was the round where they went to the bomb
remember
side.
where they were on A, right?
Yeah, watching that round, I'm like, oh shit, these guys are here to play.
They're actually a good team. They're actually a proper team.
They were communicating. They were clearing everything out. They were piecing the pieces together, and they just beat Vitality. And I'm like, holy shit, that they're here to play right now. And then of course they ran away with it on Mirage. Dust 2 is Vitality's map. They look much better. Inferno, the biggest problem was you could see the nerves come in again, right? But you can't really blame them. You're playing the deciding map of a major grand finals, but you could see how one-dimensional the T side was, trying to crack the B bomb side time and time again. And Apex is reading like an open book, man. He was starting the early B, 3B every single time. And for Mongols, I'm sure if they'd slowed things down and taken a deep breath and calmed things down, they could have made things a little bit more competitive. I doubt they would have won it though. And I felt like if you go back and watch a T side from Mongols, it's nowhere close to how good they can be on an Inferno T side. They're usually very, very solid on the T side. But I felt like they were super one-dimensional because they were just trying to end the game a little too fast, right? They're like, we got to ride the momentum. I'm like, you need to slow things down. You need to really slow it down. That didn't happen. But hey, you know what? Every loss is a learning experience. And this, my friend, it's the biggest lesson you can learn.
Yeah. I remember that exact round that you're talking about, by the way, because I was co-streaming and I had the exact same thought as you. I remember specifically saying like...
Mirage round, you mean?
The Mirage round, yeah, the 3v5, where I said something like, that round is a sign that they're an elite team. Just the way that they thought through that round. Like you could see, it was like a 30, 45 seconds, very drawn out. Like they were holding positions on the A-bomb side. I think there was a flank maybe coming in from T-Spawn. They, I think they chucked a molly in main, got the bomb plant, and then obviously won a few individual duels and off you go from there. But like I looked at that round, I was like, any other Asia team, and frankly, probably 90% of the teams in the world would just lose that round because they would, rush a plan or, someone would peek and get their head banged off or something like that. But Mongols, I mean, they looked fantastic, at least there on that round of Mirage and all of the rounds on Mirage. One thing we should shout out, by the way, shout out Techno one time. What a fucking GOAT. He was absolutely insane in these playoffs. Even in the grand final, that game on Mirage, he was clutching like an absolute
three clutches. 3 clutches in that map. A 2v4, which came down to a 1v2 for him. A 1v2, and then a 1v1 at the end as well, right? And I want to actually, can we start touching upon the players? Because I think it's very, the couple of guys we have to touch upon. Firstly, Senzu. Well, our boy Senzu went, hold up, I think it went 1.26 rating in the playoffs.
Right.
And his
1.26 in the final as well.
Consistent as well.
Yeah. And by the way, in playoffs, the only two people, in the playoffs, the only two people above him are Zaiwu. I mean, it's 1.33 in the playoffs, and Zaiwu. And Donk, who only played one series. That's about it, right? Smaller sample size. 7 maps, 1.26 rating for Senzu in the playoffs.
In major playoffs is insane. Yeah.
Major playoffs, right? Now we got to talk about this kid. Did he choke? Did he suck in playoffs all this while? Yes, he did. Absolutely. But we saw in Dallas, by the way, I think it was like 1.17 rating, and you could see him actually kind of battling it out, duking it out, right? Even though it was fluctuating quite a bit, he was still finding inconsistencies in his performances, depending on the day, depending on the map, on the playoffs. But he was starting to pop off a little bit here and there. But the fact that he actually peaks and kills his stage demons in a major playoffs, man, that's some baller shit. That is some baller shit. Like, the pressure's truly on, and you're like, yeah, fuck it. Like, watch me now, motherfuckers. And he pops off like that, dude. Shout out Tenzu, dude. Like, honest to God, what a fucking baller.
Yeah.
Top 3 rated player. Top 4, I think, or top 3 in a major throughout, at least for the main stage.
Or I think he ended. Top three.
Top 3 in a fucking major, dude. Like, take a motherfucking bow, dog.
Yeah.
Easy. Fucking
I
hell.
would have expected Dumao to be there either. I mean, Dumao and Lado were insane, but that's another story. I mean, Mongolz, I think, that's very promising. That Senzu's able to perform in major playoffs, because that's been a big narrative for quite a while, that his level falls off in the important games. Yeah. I think for Mongolz, like, the thing that I saw was like kind of a struggle for them is like 9-10 had a massive fall off, like the map 2 and 3, but also I felt like they were just like, they were always 4v5, or they were always losing first pick or losing man advantage. And Vitality is so good at like creating those advantages. Their riflers are so good at like winning those duels cleanly or creating those opportunities cleanly within the structure. Like, I think like the thing that makes Vitality such a scary team is like at least the older iterations of Vitality, and before like this whole era started, I used to like, I think like a lot of people like hyperfixate on ZywOo and be like, oh, ZywOo's carrying the game, or ZywOo's gonna like find opening picks with the AWP or whatever. But like, I feel like he wasn't even like the defining player really. It's like all of the riflers are so fucking good at getting openers for Vitality. And it feels like you're always playing the game from a fucking disadvantage, you know? And Mongolz is the kind of team that they want to like skirmish a little bit. I think the Mongolian style in general is they like to be a bit skirmishy. The players like to take some of those opportunities or take some of those individual duels, whether they're being set up for it or whether they're just kind of feeling things out. And I feel like most of the time they're like losing that opening engagement and playing things from behind. And you got to give them credit. They're still trying to play the same. They're not trying to play scared, and they're still trying to create those opportunities. But when you're losing them almost all of the time across every role, and it's not even the opposing AWPer that's like isolating you and picking you off, it's like the riflers and players in every position. It's fucking rough, man. And you can see it from the stats there. Like, that's crazy consistency. ZywOo had the least kills, and all of them are within 10 kills.
Carried.
Fucking every single player in Vitality performed in the final. Like that.
It's like forgetting Dust 2, because obviously, you know, the Dust 2 Vitality is super good. The biggest problem I mean, I'm going to get a little bit micro here on Inferno. I remember watching them play against even like more aggressive teams, right? In T-side, they would be so good at defaulting that they would catch the aggression from the CDs time and time again. You go watch that game, and you on the T-side, and you tell me how many times you'd see all 5 members of Mongol just grouped up. 5 members, not even they wouldn't even have a player lurking towards apartments, or, you know, just having a contingency plan just in case a B hit doesn't pan out. And this is on a full buy round. They go towards Banana, and they would just get bombarded. I mean, Vitality utility on Banana is probably some of the best in the world. They would just completely destroy you. You have lost like 150 HP, haven't seen a single player, and you're not getting those fights that you want to see. And then later on, what Vitality would do, they'd start heavy 4A, Rops pushes towards apartments. They were just playing this very dynamic, not over aggressive, but just dynamic in your face style. And if Mongols played a little bit more static, a little bit more default heavy, I feel they could have won at least 2 or 3 more rounds on the T side, honestly. It's just that they seem to want to call more Snappy, like, if you remember Snappy's end score, like how does it call straight from the spawn? They're like, all right, we're gonna hit B right now, we're gonna hit A right now. They didn't have too many plan Bs, and for me that was a problem, which is surprising, because that's the thing. I feel like they were trying to throw in a massive curveball by being super fast against Vitality, map 3, catch him off guard. I think that was the game plan. Unfortunately, yeah, it's Vitality.
I mean, it's all just part of the evolution of the roster, and Blitz, I think, as an in-game leader as well. You know, I think you can kind of still see the points at which they are starting to really get comfortable on that tier 1 level. I mean, you can talk about the mid-rounding on Mirage as well. I thought they had some really, really good mid-round calls, going back and forth on Mirage in particular. So it may just be a case of, okay, we've kind of reached this certain level where we are elite on certain maps, we're comfortable on certain maps, and when things are going our way, we can really make it happen. But there's like that still that next step that they need to take if they really want to be truly, for example, the best team in the world. Even had they won this major, let's just say they had won this major, would we call them the best team in the world? Well, they would have been the best team in the world in that particular tournament. But Vitality's run
they
would have
be
been
the major champion.
Yes,
but they're not the best team in the world.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of what I'm saying. Like, there's still a little bit of work to be done here for the Mongols, but it's not, to take anything away from them being. Look, I mean, again, the argument is top 5. There's no argument that they're top 5 now. There's probably an argument even that they maybe have eclipsed Spirit in a sense as well. I think Spirit have, kind of fallen off in a little bit of a more recent time. There's discussions to be had there.
They still need to earn that. Like, I think this is where, I might be being a bit pessimistic or playing devil's advocate too much, but when I look at the CS landscape, like right now, like we didn't have Falcons in the playoffs here, and then you got Spirit, Mongolz. Like they haven't had to play their way through any of those teams in the bracket on their side of the bracket, right? They've had to play a phase with Simple coming in, who crumbled like in the fucking decider map of the quarterfinal, which is something you would never fucking expect. Love that, by the way. EU, Asia. Yeah, let's fucking go.
This is why we're not geographically challenged anymore.
Where's America?
South America, God, 9.
Fuck, you gotta scroll down to find those cunts.
By the way, even Lin Vision and Tai Lu are not doing too bad. Where's North America? Oh, they're underneath Asia. But this is gonna be a North America podcast.
Australia. Bro, are we even in the top 30, bro? Fuck.
29. We're 29. We're doing
29,
okay.
Let's go.
No, but dog, NA didn't even win the fucking show match, dude. Like,
I know, bro. I know. I saw Grim after that show match. As soon as they lost, you could see the camera went straight to Grim, and I just thought, "Fuck this cunt. He's fucked." They haven't won shit at this major, and then he comes and plays the show match and still loses. Like, that's got to be painful. You're losing a show match to fucking streamers, bro.
As a better team,
they were clearly a better team.
But clearly, and you can troll. You should troll. You should have a good time. It's all about the show, right?
But still,
dude. Obviously, I'm kidding. Obviously, I'm fucking kidding.
No, I know, but like, just to lose it there, you gotta just feel and be like, fuck, man, couldn't we just at least win the show match just for a little bit of like,
you lost to Oni, guys. You lost to Oni, man.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now another one.
Here we go.
Lock in. Mongolz play like. I don't, maybe not Aurora or even Na'Vi would convince me as much. They're kind of in the same as the FaZe camp. I think Mongolz is clearly better than all those teams in my mind. But when I look at the rankings as they are in the top 5, like I need Mongolz to play a semi against Falcons or Spirit or Mongolz or someone like that.
I would feel, if you hate Mongolia, it's fine to just say
I can say that. Sure,
all right, I'm going to put it this way, right? So
here comes some racism, by the way, guys.
Number one, yeah, I'm the racist Irish. Someone called me Irish, the Irish racist. Dinka would love me for that, but anyway.
Irish racist player. What's your name? Sudan Wang Bam, the Irish racist.
O'Brien. Sudan O'Brien, yeah. So Vitality, Mouse clearly won in number 2, right? Obviously. I would put Falcons there, despite the fact they completely fucking choked. They sucked dick at this event, and we've laughed about it. We've spoken about it, right? But still, before that, they were looking super good. They were looking like the only team who on paper could potentially, usurp Vitality from their throne. And with this guy coming in right now with Kyosuke, I would preemptively, although I don't know how it's going to pan out, maybe it might take a little while, but I could preemptively put them as not a strong third, but like a soft third. You know what I mean, right?
Okay.
I'd still put Spirit over there. You still have Donk. I'd put Mongolz in a conversation with Falcons and Spirit. It's a soft 3rd to 5th, right? On a good day, I think they can beat them. But I would like to see them beat them in a best of 3 online. Forget arena. Just win a LAN against
ESL Pro League or something.
And Falcons. Yeah. Which they have.
They're not good. I just want to see that. That would make me happy. Can we see that? That would be great.
Yeah,
by the way,
I agree with Pilski, but that's the thing. I want to keep it as a soft, like, you know what I mean, right? Like a 3 to 5 mixed around, because I can't place them. I don't know where to place them exactly. 3rd, 4th, 5th. I don't know, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Shout out to Testis as well, by the way, playing his way into staying on Falcons.
Yeah.
Everyone's forgotten, by the way. Everyone was forgotten. It was supposed to be Kyosuke coming in for Tessus, and later on they're like, wait, this gun's kind of cracked. This gun's fucking good. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he really kept his spot on the team.
But bro, I'm just looking at the team, and look, I'm not a role cell. You know, I don't give a shit about roles. I think everyone can learn to adapt, unless you're someone like some pure weapon like Donk. But you have Tessus, aggro. Kyosuke, Donk 2.0, supposedly. You have Nico, famously, aggro as fuck. You have Modesty, aggro as fuck. I'm like, you have Kixon, who's also like, yeah, I'll just jump in along with you guys as well. I'm like, holy shit, this is a whole W team, bro.
Balls to the walls kind of a team. All right, guys, we've got to get into the serious shit, you know what I mean, though? Because we need like some clickbait titles. We need to basically say that Mongolz is not the best team in the world anymore, or they're not never going to be, or they're never even been the best team in Asia. So is this result enough to say they are the best Asian CS team of all time? Because if you remember, the caveat that we have had every single time we have said this, for the fucking dumbass viewers that just read the title, is CS, not modern day CS. So modern day CS, I think we can easily say they are. We already did prior to this major.
They're the best Counter-Strike team from Asia in the past 15 years.
Yes.
Period. No argument.
However, is there an argument that they are still not the best CS team of all time?
Okay.
Clickbait, go.
Real talk. Okay. Let's give context right now for our viewers. Right, this is a long time ago, guys. This is a long time ago, and I've been watching Counter-Strike for a long time. We're gonna do a quick history lesson here, right? Counter-Strike came out when, like beta, like 99, right, 2000 thereabouts, right? And then 1.6 came out in 2003, but the pro scene started in 2001. From 01 till 04, there were no real Asian teams. But there were teams, but no one really, that good enough to compete in top tier events. And then, all right, kiddies, open up your Google Chromes or whatever. There was this team called WNV. They were the first big name in Asian Counter-Strike, World Counter-Strike, which was an Asian team. It was a Chinese team, which had a few players called Alex. You got to look at a 1.6 lineup.
Where do I even find that, man?
We're in CSGO. Click CS.
All the way top. All the way top is right there.
Click CS.
We had people like Alex, or Alex44, as it was known back then. We had people like Sakula, legendary player called Savage, TB. These guys were even playing in CSGO as well, by the way. These are guys who won extra events.
Yeah, player roster.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah,
Alex, Jungle. There were a lot of changes, obviously, over time. Sakula came in later on as well. This team, by the way, they won at that point, 1.6 major champions. They won WEM, I believe, 2006, 2005. These are teams like, the Russian VP. You had NIP playing over there, with people like fucking Fisker and Heaton. Yeah, I'm sure you guys know Heaton. But look at the teams over here. SK. You had Fisker, Spawn. People know who Spawn is, right? You had fucking Hacker Project. It's Project KR, the best Asian team at that point. You had Complexity Gaming with fucking Fraud, Warden, Sunman. There's a GOAT lineup right there. And NOA, also legendary organization. Zonic, you can see over there as well. Like, this was a legit team, guys. And at that point, they were the best Asian team. Now, we have another team that came out. Tyloo came out later on, 2008. They're about in Asia. Weren't that great. So they were never in the conversation. And then you had this one team called Project KR come out, right? And Project KR had a few lineup changes over time, but they had a few name changes as well. So Project KR, they became We Made Fox, Eastro, and Red Coat at the end, right? But the core of this team was Solo, Bale, Glow, Perry, and Termi. And I'm sure you guys remember some of them who are right now coaching a lot of like big Valorant teams over in South Korea. This was the best 5-man lineup Asia's ever had. They were in the playoffs, not just playoffs, finals of not just S-tier tournaments, but majors, like Counter-Strike 1.6 majors at the time. They won ESWC 2008, which was a major in Counter-Strike 1.6. And we can't forget that because, the term of CSGO majors came about after Valve introduced it in 2013 in DreamHack Winter. But we can't forget our history, that these are super competitive tournaments. These are high the high caliber teams playing over there, and yet these guys won these events. Now, with that in context, let's talk about the Mongols, right? They have never been in the finals of an S-tier tournament, a real S-tier tournament, till this major. And what they've done here is fucking phenomenal. Now, are they the greatest of all time? I think the jury's out on this. The oldie...
Here we go.
With all the context I've given right now, I'm going to add one more thing.
I'm seeing a lot of firsts on my screen, Bleh. I'm seeing a lot of firsts there. That's crazy.
I know, but it's all C tiers, you know, whatever. The S tier matters over there. That's true as well. But the thing is, looking at the level of competition we have right now and how much Counter-Strike has evolved over the time and everything, oh, this is so hard. I'm leaning towards Mongolz, this lineup possibly being the greatest lineup I've ever had. Possibly. Not achievement-wise, but what they've pulled off, you know, as a team overall. But there is still an argument. There is still an argument to be made that the greatest is still the Koreans because they've won multiple majors. There's an argument to be made.
He said
they're
definitely,
they're definitely the best Asian CS team of all time playing outside of Asia. Because all of these Korean and Chinese teams, bro, they used to like look where all these events are. Most of these events are held where they're like
Asia,
they're winning. They would always win in China and Korea and shit.
I know,
all the time.
always. Also, I remember one tournament because of how fucking whack some of the video systems were. When we made Fox play, this one tournament, they only got to play Inferno, and it was only best to one for some reason. So the running joke was we made Inferno because they were the best team in Inferno at that point in time. So like, I'm gonna say this, man. Yeah, I think Mongolz is the greatest team we've had from Asia ever. Mm-hmm. Because
there you go.
They've done it.
They've convinced Bleh, you know, he is the ultimate hater. He is even racist, and he has said every single time in the past that Mongolz is not the best team of all time, and he's finally been turned around by this major result. So there you go. I think we can lock it in. No, I 100% agree. Look, at this point, you know, I obviously can't go back in history and say that I was ever involved in those 1.6 or source days or anything like that. I don't have any purview on that necessarily, but as someone who has only watched Counter-Strike coming from Global Offensive onwards, I also have to say I think that they are the best team of all time, just purely because the stakes are so much bigger now. The situation is just so much different that at the end of the day, you do have to put some weighting into that. And I understand that it is apples to oranges, but this is a way more professionalized scene. There is so much more on the line. It is more difficult. I don't care. You know, you can tell me go back in the day and it was hard and this and that, but like, bro, there was not teams with a fucking sports psychologist getting paid millions of dollars to perform on an elite level, literally min-maxing their sleep schedule, their food, their fitness, their wank schedule, bro. Jane is wanking before major finals to make sure that he's at peak performance, right? They weren't doing that back in the day. Yeah, Jimmy's gooning.
If they did have that, people would look at you like you're a fucking weirdo.
Exactly.
Like, you're a fucking weirdo.
So don't tell me it's the same, all right? Mongols are the best team of all time from Asia, according to Elfishguy, according to Bleh. What about you, Pilski?
Yeah, sure.
Boom, 3 out of 3.
And
I would
the
like
official, to see them beat a top 5 team in a quarter or a semi-final, to make
this guy can't just say one good thing, can he?
I've said it as well, but I just want to say, like, the moment that, you know, Mongolz win an S-tier tournament, like, right, even if it's a PGL event, you know, we don't have like
they won Yellow Compass, mate. What are you talking about?
Shut the fuck up. As long as the win, it's not. It's an A plus tier event. I'm talking about, but win a tournament which has, like, you know, a Spirit, maybe, you know, fucking Falcons, maybe FaZe, whatever, right? If they win, or Mouse, if they win a tournament right there, I want no, I'll be like, yo, they're the best of all time, 100%. I'll just put it out right there. But right now, I can see, you can see where I'm coming from, right? You can't deny, you can't ignore the past. But oh, that's way in the past. We don't care about it. That is a disservice to Asian Counter-Strike.
Yeah.
You are shitting on the face of Asian Counter-Strike. You're ignoring your ancestors. You know, you're ignoring your elders and be like, oh, no, fuck them. I don't care about them because I'm 15 years old. Shut the fuck up. Respect your elders. You got to respect your elders. You got to give them credit where it's due. At the same time, it makes the Mongols better. It makes them look better by comparison, right? Well, why don't you get this? You can't be like, oh, they're old, we don't care about them. You should care about them. You should look at what they've achieved. Make an effort, right, guys? instead of typing in YouTube comments, try this. This is crazy idea, right? Open up Wikipedia or HLTV or even Google for that matter, right? And look up, do research. Now, this is crazy, right? With ChatGPT and shit like that, doing your own research. Try that. See what they've achieved. Look at that. And then make an educated decision or an opinion based on that. That's what you got to do. And that's how you prove yourselves to be a real fan, because that shows you've done your research. And even with that, if you're able to hold Mongolz to a high esteem, credit to you. That's great. But you can't forget the past. And that for me is a crazy thing. Like, you can't just ignore it because, oh, it happened beforehand. No, it's important to have that in context, because that legitimizes Mongolz even better. It makes them look better. And I've been the racist asshole saying, no, actually, the Koreans did it better. No, WNV did it better. But right now, I'm saying the Mongols have done it better, right? Yep. It took me a while, but it got there, and the Mongols did it. And I think that's fucking cool. I don't know why that's not a cool storyline, Jordan. Why is that bad? Why does it make me Irish? Why am I Irish?
Why is it bad to be Irish, by the way?
At least it's better than being British, all right? Better than British.
Shout out Tinko one time.
Shout out Tinko one time.
I will say, that's the difference between a fanboy
now,
and someone who's actually a proper fan. Do you know what I mean? Like, a fanboy versus someone who's legit locked in. You can just be this guy that's like, I love this
thing. It's the culture now.
Yeah.
The culture now is to be like, be a fan, and it's like a K-pop drama.
Through thick and thin.
And what else?
Which is good, by the way. They need people. Look, teams need someone like that. Everybody needs someone like that. Everybody needs a number one fan. Pilski's got one. She remodeled his studio. Shout out Caitlin one time.
Thank you. Yeah, it's my only fan, of course.
Everyone loves OnlyFans.
Everyone loves an OnlyFan.
But yeah, I think that's just the fan culture that we live in nowadays. It's not cool to it's cool to bandwagon. It's cool to support no matter what, like unconditional support, and I understand that. It's just like not how I like to roll. And if I have thoughts on something, that doesn't change usually based off of a win or a loss or a certain run. It's like, that it's just my opinion. I just call it how I see it, and that's my opinion. So that's what I'm saying. Like, it's fucking sick that they made it to a major final, but took a map off
Vitality as well,
and took a map off Vitality. But and I'm not taking anything away from that. But that saying that, okay, how many majors have we had in CS? Like fucking tons. Okay. Bleh, every team that made it to a major final is the same. It's the same result, right? Correct or no?
Wait, what do you mean by that?
If you make it to a major final, it's like the same no matter what tournament it was.
It's as impressive to make any major final as any other major final.
No. I'm just saying, like, it's the same weighting. You wouldn't. Would you say that it matters, or would you say like what tournament it was, what era it was, how competitive it is?
There will be a conversation for, there can always be conversations, right? But a major is a major, because Vitality winning in Paris, for example, everyone's like, Mickey Mouse major. And I can see the conversation, but you can only beat the teams in front of you.
Yeah, that's fair. But I don't know. I think that, like, it means something to be in the most competitive era and to win like that tournament, you know what I mean? Or it means something to be in, like, I don't know, like NIP dominating at the start of CSGO, when there isn't as many like professionalized teams and all that kind of stuff, like Jordan was saying, with like the difference in 1.6 and all that kind of stuff. You got to weigh all of this into what you think about a certain result.
And here's the thing, right? I feel like these conversations are so nuanced, and it gets lost along the way, because where they're playing against fucking, halftime plumbers and carpenters, yes, they were. But also, 87-0 in maps on LAN. I don't care who you play against, buddy. That's insane. Not dropping a single map is legit ludicrous, and I don't want to take that away. I hate this.
I mean, I think you have to just look back at. Okay, do you know the name Don Bradman, Bleh?
Yeah, duh.
Pilski, you know the name Don Bradman, right?
Yeah.
That guy's from the 1930s or some shit. That guy's from the 1930s, okay? And nobody is arguing who the best batsman of all time is. Okay, there is kind of a bit of a discussion, to be fair, now with some of the more recent modern day.
But even Sachin said, like, Bradman was something special at that point in time, yeah.
Exactly. He did something that was very out of this world, and even though he did it, basically almost 100 years ago, people are still looking at that. And I think even some of the Mongolians have heard of Don Bradman. Probably not many, but look, he is, like, you know what I mean? Like that's kind of, you have to, again, sort of respect that history, and that's what you guys are kind of trying to do. And I think, yeah, again, it does come into play in Counter-Strike, although not as much, just because we don't have that history. Counter-Strike's only 25 years old, whatever, as far as Counter-Strike esports is concerned. So to be able to go back in history, look, hopefully, Geographically Challenged, episode 888, we're here in 30 years, mega millionaires, because Counter-Strike in Asia is like the biggest, hottest, most amazing thing, and we've been here since the fucking beginning, boys. That's it. We're real shit, by the way. We can clip this, and in 80 years, when we're all pretty much dead, or hooked up to the fucking cyberverse as brains in a tank, watching Counter-Strike forever, we can say, remember the Mongols. Remember Blitz. Remember Old Man Blitz. Remember Old Man Techno. Remember fucking Maaraa, pot-bellied Maaraa, the fucking GOAT. Those are going to be the names that we'll be talking about with reverence in 30 years' time. You have to respect the fact that those players that came before were able to do that same thing the way that the Mongols are doing it now.
Now imagine your kids, I mean, not our kids, obviously. I don't want to have one, but like, even if I had one, I'd whip them to shit. I'm like, no, you respect your elders, motherfucker. But what if, imagine your kids are like, Blitz who? Oh, I don't want to care about what happened in 2024, 5. They're fucking boomers. I'm playing CS8 right now, bitch. You know what I mean? You know how that would sound for you who are a fan of the current Mongol? So I feel like the context is so important. And I want to swiftly, speaking of players, I want to just touch upon one guy, right? Techno. Because he is someone I brought up last time as well. I'm like, Techno, he plays the hardest roles. And every time you watch him play, he's one of the very few players you're like, he doesn't put himself in bad situations. He doesn't put himself in like a spot where like, yeah, he shouldn't have done that play. He always seems to know where to be at the right spot in time, despite some of the roles he has to play on a lot of the maps. But you can't deny the fact that, aim-wise, he wasn't winning as many deals as he used to once upon a time. Like the latter half of 100%. Last year, even this year, he was struggling quite a bit. So I was like, technically, you got to step up. Like, we know you can aim hard, but you need to, and you position yourself so well. He seems to have like this great intuition, which I feel only him. I think he might have the best intuition alongside Mazzinho in that team, in all honesty. But he's just not able to pop those heads like a Mazzinho can. But man, this event, especially in the playoffs, bro, he popped the fuck off. Especially against Vitality, that Mirage. Yeah. The reason it looked so clean and easy was because he was winning clutch after clutch after clutch. And these are not like fluke clutches where Fortune favored him or something. These are some disadvantageous deals he had to take. Against Mezzi, 20 HP, pop headshot. Yeah. So aware of late flanks coming in from ramp. Like, he was playing like the Techno I remember, bro. And watching that from you is like, fuck yeah, boy. Put this guy on the fucking stage. He's going to pop off. Yep. Beautifully done.
What a goat. I mean, I was really happy because, he's been a little bit under fire lately. And I don't know that has necessarily been the case within the discourse in Mongolia. I think, generally speaking, Mongolian fans,
the most loved player,
are very supportive. I think just, and again, I might be getting wrong the cultural read, but to me, the culture seems to be less critical or willing to discuss like the negative aspects or things that aren't going right, because when I do these episodes with Kay and stuff like that, he's like, oh, I would never say this kind of thing on my show. And like, obviously that's fair enough. That's the culture. But like, for us in our culture and our discussions, it's always like, okay, what actually is happening? Let's address the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
So I don't know if he's necessarily getting that same pressure maybe from the Mongolian community, which is obviously the one I'm sure that he would interact with and see the most. So maybe he doesn't have that inherent pressure from his side of things, but at least internationally speaking, there was those conversations around, has Techno fallen off a little bit? But I was really happy to see him just kind of like have a bit of a renaissance, you know what I mean? Like when he clutched those rounds out, you could see, the smile. I was like, fuck yeah, like that's my GOAT back again. I was really, really happy for him. So shout out Techno. He's a very, very fucking awesome human being, right? Like I've had some convos with him, and look, I was just happy for the guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think fan culture in the West, like America and Europe, is like more homogenous. Even like Australia could lump into that. Whereas in Asia, it's very different, like country to country. All of these smaller regions have very, very different fan culture, and some of them are crazy. Some of them are, POS apologists at times. Some of them are nice people and they don't want to criticize their goats, and that's good. And I mean, you've seen it from some of the fucking tweets and shit. I mean, I don't know if this is already up on the screen, Jordan, but if it's not, you can already bring it up. Where, holy shit, bro! Like the support from the Mongolian fan base is insane. This is like yeah, this is next level shit. Like this actually almost is more impressive to me than what the team is doing. Like the fan culture around the team, and the way that the Mongolian community is showing up is more impressive to me than like what the Mongolian fans are doing in CS right now. I don't know if I've seen this in CS specifically. In other esports, I've definitely seen this kind of behavior in Asia, but especially for a low like geographical population country, this kind of support and this kind of showing up is like insane, and it's what we're missing in certain countries here. We get it. Or to be fair, we've seen it in China with the major and some of the tournaments that we've had in China, where a lot of fans have been showing up for CS as well. But you know, China's such a huge place with such a huge population that it's not fair comparing that to how much the Mongolian fans are showing up, given
This arena,
like,
by
how
the
many
way,
barriers there are as well.
this arena is the arena where Nomadic Masters was held, just for context, and it's like a hockey arena.
Yeah, that's
So,
like honestly, like
that photo is so sick. By
I
the
love
way,
this photo.
Yeah.
I love this photo
community
as well.
is insane.
This one's
the
awesome.
community is fucking insane for Mongolia CS. So like, and it's happened in such a short period of time. Like it's incredible.
Is it that short? Because I mean, yes, you're right. Like the growth has been explosive in the past 2 or 3 years. But was it Red Eye? Whoever I brought a story up once where I think he spoke to one of the Mongolz guys in back in 2015, 2016 or something, right? It's like, why are you guys so good at Counter-Strike? He's like, because we have fucking nothing else to do. That's what he said. And yeah, like just
the whole thing with Swedes, right? It's never fucking, it's dark outside
so
all the time, so they just play games. Back in the day, that was the whole thing. Rip Sweden.
And considering I've been in Ulaanbaatar, knowing how cold it is, I totally get why everyone's playing fucking CS, dude. But no, honest to God, like, I think they had 89,000 people watching the live stream, and that's not counting the thousands. I don't know, hundreds of thousands, but thousands of people.
It would be thousands for sure, based on these photos.
So like over 100,000 people showing up
I think that's
to watch
safe to say,
this. Easily over 100,000, right? Like 120, 130,000 people watching with a population of just like 3.3 million or something. Bro, that's insane. Like that's actually like mainstream celebrity culture for this team. And
it is.
And I'm honest to God, dude, we rarely get to see this in esports. So I'm like,
there's 3,000 people probably in this photo.
It's 7 a.m. It's like fucking 7 a.m. in the morning.
For CS, it's
for
crazy for Asia, for sure. For Counter-Strike. For other games, this is quite... Like, I think it's impressive for Mongolia, like I said, due to the barriers, due to the population size, and the explosive growth. This is really, really impressive fan culture to me. And it's like legit fan culture, you know, where it's like they are fucking fans of the team that are doing something that is like super impressive. And they're really like repping their region specifically. Whereas, look, I'm not going to shit on any other kind of fan culture, but there is a lot of esports fan culture in Asia in other games. And I think that, you know, they really do show up for their teams and their players. And there's a really, really big support for certain clubs. But like I said, for this population size, for Mongols specifically, in a game where Asia is not a very well represented region, like the Mongolian fan base is insane to me, you know, because I can always make the fucking caveat when I see like China getting packed out. I'm like, how many fucking people does China have? You know, it's fucking insane. Like, there's so many people. How could it not be packed? Almost, you know, like that's what I think.
That is literally true.
And
by the way,
that might be white man mentality. Like,
no, it's not.
Some shit to
There's
some
like 35 million people in fucking Shanghai, bro. You just run an event there.
Fucking Australia, we have like
thousand are going to turn up.
Something million people here. If I put a CS event on, like in IEM, okay, fills out. All right, that's fair enough. Like it does pretty well here. Like to be fair, but like if I had like another CS event, I don't fucking know if anyone would come.
Here's what I wonder. You know how like so just for anyone that's not aware, so this particular square, Sukhbata Square, which is where these guys are watching this, and there was well, I've got a lot of thoughts. There was a lot of viewing parties in Mongolia, not just this one in particular. There was one in Sukhbata Square, there was one in Steppe Arena, which is obviously one of the big arenas, and all over like these parks and shit like that, there was heaps of them. But this one particular one here in Sukhbata Square is like their main square that they have in Ulaanbaatar, which is the capital of Mongolia. So it'd be like, okay, if we were to go with the New York equivalent, it would be Times Square, basically. Now, obviously, it's not Times Square because it's not that big of a city, right? But like that's their equivalent. Just for the international viewers that maybe don't know Mongolia or have never been there, it's their main square. we have similar things that happen in Australia, Pilski. If you know, like during the FIFA World Cup, for example, people will go to Federation Square in Melbourne and watch like the football, like the World Cup when the Aussie team is playing, and it'll be like 3 a.m. in the morning, and there'll be like a few hundred or 1,000 people there and that kind of thing. That's kind of the equivalent. And I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, first of all, we don't even get that many people watching the fucking soccer, bro. Second of all, if it was fucking Counter-Strike, would anyone even show up? I wonder. I do think there would be some. Like if FlyQuest, for example, would have made the major final, how many people from Australia would have turned up to these kinds of viewing parties? How many of these viewing parties would there have been? There certainly would have been some.
Not enough.
But I don't think there would have been the equivalent number of 3.5 million people to, what are we at now? Like 28 million in Australia. Let's say 28 million. We would have needed 10,000 people potentially to show up to some of these viewing parties. I don't think we would get that. We would probably get the same amount that are here, except our population is like 7 times as many people, potentially, or 8 times as many people. So shout out to the Mongolian fans. Like, they're fucking insane. I don't often glaze fans, but this is the one time I think that is warranted. Like, the amount of support that the Mongols got from Mongolia in particular was absolutely insane. And obviously internationally as well. But, the international fans went out at 3 a.m. in the fucking middle of
I'm not too surprised, I won't lie, because having been in Ulaanbaatar just a few months ago, just seeing so many people recognize us, right? Usually in Asia, a lot of people watch their local broadcast. Could be Mongolian broadcast, could be Chinese broadcast. They don't usually recognize a lot of the English talent, but they were like, people just on the streets recognizing all of us. I'm like, holy shit, this is insane. And everyone knew the Mongols. This is no exaggeration. It's such a young city, a lot of young kids, students, whatever, right, just are all over the place. And you see the Mongols, with the hoardings and everything just everywhere. But I think the big surprise for me would have been just, the extremity in a good way, right? Like 7 a.m., bro, watching Counter-Strike 7 a.m. in a square and everyone just showing up. I mean, they're actually showing up, not just being like, oh, we're a big fan. No, we're going to come out in force. They could have just sat at home and watched it on their fucking TV or a laptop or something, right? That's totally understandable. I would have done that. But they came in together in a show of force. I think that is such a cool thing. So
it's what
even as an Irish racist, shout out to the Mongolian fans.
Yeah,
even the ones
I think it's what we're missing in like modern esports culture a little bit. Like it really feels like the old school fucking vibes of like, bro, like these fucking Zoomers, man. Like these guys, a lot of these guys look young. There's like a pretty mixed like age range that I see in this picture, but I see plenty of guys that would be in that Zoomer age range. Like
boys, girls as well. Like it's not
what fucking Western Zoomer is getting out of bed, bro, to go and watch this shit. Like I feel like we don't have this fan culture anymore.
I used to
We don't have people that would go sleep on the floor to fucking play at a LAN, but the Mongolian fans will fucking do that shit. And
you guys probably don't know this,
bro.
You guys probably don't know this about me, but I used to run League of Legends viewing parties back in the day. This is like 2011, 2012 maybe, before I was even involved in CS. And I used to run viewing parties. They were called MOBAs because obviously it's a MOBA game, and they were in bars, so we called them MOBAs.
Wow.
Yeah. And we used to do them for like LCK, which is like the Korean League, and for Worlds and stuff like that. And we would get people coming out to watch, but kind of ended up just stopping them because there wasn't people coming anymore. Like, but back in the day, you used to get a lot of people that would go and do that. So that's kind of what this feels like. Again, it's kind of like, like exactly what you're saying, Pilski. There's that fan culture that not that it doesn't exist necessarily in esports anymore, but it's just changed in a way that it's gone from viewing it as a entertainment product together to I'm going to sit at home on my computer screen and chat shit in Twitch chat.
But it's also like a change of mentality where it's like, I feel like people just used to do shit for like the love of the game and to like fucking get out there and like get involved and shit. And that's what this feels like to me. Whereas now I feel like a lot of younger gamers and people that are esports fans that are newer are more
like, what do I get out of it?
What do I get? What's in it for me?
Where's
like,
the drop or fucking skin or whatever?
Yeah, it
it's
like that a bit.
It's also because Mongolia still does have the very old school LAN culture as well, right? Like how many places do you go to nowadays? Even in Sweden and but traditionally Sweden, even in Copenhagen, if you go there, you're not going to see the sort of like old school LAN culture that they have in Ulaanbaatar. So I guess it kind of
it's
there for them. Yeah.
You know what I just realized? I just realized we're so old. You know,
We
like
are,
it's
Well,
like one of
back
those
in my
things where
day.
it's like I used to I feel like in my earlier 20s, bro, I used to be like, bro, I used to go to country towns and shit. I'd be like, this is so shit, bro. Like, how do people live like this? And now I realize, like, wow, man, like these guys, they want to go to a LAN, like, you know, like
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, respect. I wish I'm like, Mongolia might be a few years behind, but they are in the right way. This is the perfect way to
Yep.
be like behind the culture. You guys are in the golden era. Please enjoy it.
Enjoy
it's
the
going
shit
to,
out of
It's going
this.
to get worse. Please,
I know.
appreciate it while it lasts.
Yeah.
Bro, I've probably been playing Counter-Strike longer than like 80% of the people watching this podcast, like how old they are. Like literally, no exaggeration. Like honest to God, like
Yeah.
holy shit.
There was a Mongolian fan in our Discord. Again, shout out Discord. Join our Discord. There's the link in the description. Who was he was saying on the night of the major final, he was like, "Oh, should I go to one of these viewing parties?" And I was like, "Bro, just go. Like, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. You will literally hate yourself if the Mongols actually win that grand final and you weren't there. Like, can you imagine the atmosphere?
Bro,
This may
yeah.
never happen again, by the way. The Mongols may never make a grand final again. No Asian team may ever make a grand final again. It is entirely possible for that to happen.
Can
This may
someone
have been a
link-
once in a lifetime opportunity.
Someone please link in the comments, like, if you have a video of like after they won the first map in the grand final, because 100% people would have like taken videos.
I saw a couple.
Oh,
but
did you?
yeah,
Bro.
Someone will
that
have
would
one
be
for sure.
insane.
But if you guys have any links, just please throw them in. Or even if you have your own videos, you can probably, just drop into our Discord. Simple as that.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to sort of just touch on quickly before the end of the Mongols glazing session, which has now gone for over an hour. So for all the Mongolian fans that watch Geographically Challenged, this episode was for you. 77,000 upvotes on this one, in interesting as fuck. All these other links were in Global Offensive. You'd expect them to kind of pop off. 77,000 fucking upvotes, bro.
But is this on interesting
On a
as fuck?
normie,
Yes.
on a normie
subreddit.
On a normie subreddit.
That's crazy.
We've eclipsed the culture. Yeah, look, we did glaze Mongols for over an hour, but Bleh ummed and ahed a little bit too much for me about whether they were the best team of all time. So he's a Irish racist as far as I'm concerned.
I'm an Irish racist. I love how some people would probably have no context about this, but someone did call me Irish and a racist.
Yeah.
On I
I don't know how the two are
something.
related, but it was in the same comment. It was like,
I'm sure they're very
why is
related.
Blair racist? Is he Irish?
Maybe,
And I was like,
maybe he met Dinko in Mongolia and is confused with me.
maybe. Look, okay. An hour of discussion about Mongols. That's enough. Shout out Mongols. They are the goats.
Quick one as well. 9-10 stepped up, delivered. He kind of failed in the final map. It doesn't matter. It's okay. Shout out to him. Mazzinho, he did his job, right? It's a bit more quiet tournament for him, but he's always going to be my young goat. And I think Blitz for me, the game plan he came in, especially for, I said, right, he needs to lead by example, be the captain of his team, and he was that. I think he really delivered as well, so shout out to him. Didn't quite pan out in the end, but hey, man, that's the biggest NT I've seen from an Asian team in fucking donkey's years, so yeah.
And Maaraa, best Asian coach of all time. Maybe one of the best coaches.
Oh, no, of all time, period.
Yeah.
Maaraa is the greatest Asian coach of all time.
In
from
Counter-Strike.
like 2001. Easy. Go.
Counter-Strike.
Yep.
That's
And
right.
hey, making a name potentially to be in Coach of the Year for 2025. I know, it's going to be hard to beat Exitaz for Vitality, or Cyclone potentially for Mouse, or what say you? But
top three. Yeah.
Top three. I mean, the Mongols, like, what you look at the pieces you've done it with, and you say, fucking good
He's
shout, mate.
definitely the number one dad.
Oh,
If he
yeah.
doesn't win coach,
Yeah,
he
yeah.
is like number one esports dad.
Dad/uncle.
He's the father of a nation.
Hmm.
Like, it's insane.
Yep. He's the father of a few nations, actually, having
should-
knocked out
They should
a
start
couple
naming
of...
one of the roads as Mara Street or something. How cool would that be?
Oh, yeah, true. Actually, that may happen, to be honest. I'm sure there's
Like,
going to be some new development
could
somewhere in
actually
Mongolia.
happen, dude.
And they're
All
going to
these-
get... Yep.
All these other esports teams, they actually have like coaches and like try-hard coaches and shit. Like, he is not only a coach, but he is also daddy. So,
Thank you, Daddy.
he's eclipsed the
Thank
role
you.
of coach.
Daddy
for me.
Maaraa made us barbecued goat one time as well, so...
What can't he do? He's the GOAT.
But
He makes
exactly.
barbecue
He's the
goat.
Yeah.
He feeds you goats.
yeah.
He's the goat. Yeah. All right.
All right. Anything else we want to say about the major? I mean, look, obviously we've been going for over an hour, so I don't know how long you guys want to make this one, but you know, there's a lot to say if we want to about vitality, about Mals, about pain, about phase, about this, about that. Anything you guys want to go into? I think vitality is worth a mention at least.
I'm not going to touch upon a lot of the other teams because there are going to be a lot of roster changes taking place. I made a tweet yesterday saying I don't expect anything crazy roster change wise, apart from the usual suspects. Striker replied to me saying, "Oh, you switched Summer Child," but I don't think people. I don't think people got what I meant there, though. What I meant was I don't see anything crazy happening. Are FaZe going to make a change? Yes, right. We know that for a fact. Spirit probably going to pick up one player to replace Adam Magix or Zontix. We know that's going to happen. G2, we already know who the players are, right? VP probably going to happen as well. Apart from that, and you know, Mals aren't going to change. Vitality aren't going to change. Mongolz aren't going to change. Na'Vi is a big surprise. Like, we know a change is going to be happening. We don't know, are they going to get someone from their academy roster or whatever. But I don't expect something like Shohei leaving Mouse. I don't expect something like, you know, a Monacy leaving for Falcons mid-season. That sort of, or the heroic core getting sold, for example, right? Any of those crazy shenanigans to take place. So that's what I meant. But I feel like we can touch upon all the other teams later in a later episode when we talk about, or rather the first episode of Geographically Superior.
Yeah.
When we talk about all the other teams. But I do want to touch a bit on Vitality, dude. Like, what they pulled off here is era defining. They needed to win the major here. I know it's only 6 months, whatever, but for me, this is an era. Not in the making. Sure. This is an era, and it's about sustaining it. Because what they've done here is unprecedented. No one's done this. Astralis, even in the peak, didn't win fucking 7 Esther events in a row.
And the thing about Astralis as well is, like, I feel like they didn't have to beat as many different kinds of opponents that were potentially dangerous and had like some very difficult like players to deal with or different styles. Like, I felt like they played Liquid like nonstop over and over and over again, and they had like a pretty big mental edge against them where you would almost expect them to win. Like, their area of dominance, I didn't feel like teams could challenge them or touch them as much. They were so like strategically ahead and so solid that everyone expected them to win. Vitality, people expect them to win, and they are very dominant, but like they still exist in an era where like Falcons could potentially beat them. Spirit in a best of 3, if they fucking peak, could beat them. Mals could come up with a good enough game plan and really turn up and beat them. You know, like they exist in an era where there are potentially dangerous teams and it's very competitive, and they have to beat a lot of different kinds of teams. And that's what really impresses me about this current Vitality era, because I was actively playing when the Astralis era was happening, and that's one of my favorite teams and a team that I would steal strats from and I tried to emulate. I really have, I think, been shaped a lot by that tactical approach to the game that they had, and that's what I really like, that high percentage kind of gameplay where you have a lot of more intricate kind of tactics with a bit more util heavy. I think Vitality is solid in a different way where they are very tactically sound, but also they can really rely on like their individual players to have like good firepower as well across the board, which Astralis did have, but they also had, I feel like, players that like, I wouldn't say, no, they did have pretty good firepower, I would say. Like, even like at the peak of their powers, Glaive was fucking insane on CT.
Glaive was a top 10 player.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. It's such a long period of time where they had that Astralis.
It's just a different game though, at this point as well.
It is a different game.
I think for Astralis, the longevity, like they're winning like what 3-4 majors in the span of the years they did. I think that's the most impressive part of it. But like just sheer, and Liquid's run was like 60 days or something, right? So super small where they had a streak. NIP, obviously the caveat comes in 87-0 and everything. Fnatic's time comes in, but even for Fnatic, I think the record was like 5 or 6 tournament wins in a row, which like a couple of them were like studio events, and we didn't have all the best teams and everything. Yeah. But adding all to everything you said right there, it's also kind of meta defining that Vitality are doing stuff which is very unique. Maui brought up a point the other day, which is something I've been thinking about as well. If you watch Apex's T sites, right, there is no real conditioning. Like if you look at how the rounds flow, the way he calls, there's not much you can really read from that. Everything's like seems random. It's not really random, obviously, right? But it's like, all right, we're gonna hit B right now. We're gonna hit B again, and now we're gonna go for a default mid spread. Out, we're gonna go for an A pincer. It's like there doesn't seem to be any rhyme or logic behind it. So it's so hard for a lot of teams to try and counter what he's doing. So even his calling has been, and fragging out as well, by the way, top fragging in a grand final has been phenomenal so far. Yeah. So every metric you can use to bring in the, a GOAT team conversation right now, Vitality have ticked every fucking thing over there. Right now, the worst enemy right now is just, they need to create new targets to kind of reach at a moment, right? They need to go for longer win streaks. They need to go for extending this unbeaten streak in best of threes and best of fives, for example, winning another major, winning another Grand Slam. These are great problems to have as a team. And I haven't seen something like this since Astralis back in the day.
Yep.
Yeah, I think TAC FPS has kind of evolved since then as well. Like we're talking many, many years ago now, to the point where I really think individual players have improved so much and their decision making has improved so much that it's almost like playing a completely different game, honestly.
Yeah, I think there's discussions to be had around, is Vitality the best modern day team of all time, or what can they do going forward to potentially put them in that discussion? How much further they have to go.
I'm actually very curious, and let's try to keep this as short as possible, right? But in modern day Counter-Strike, because we know, let's not get into 1.6 because you guys probably wouldn't know about the shit back into 2002. But if you talk about errors, and these are the errors I would pick, right? Like who really had errors over here? Nip for sure, right?
Fnatic, Astralis.
I would throw in Fnatic as well. Discussion about the Brazilians, right? They did win a couple of majors, but I wouldn't put them as an era, right?
Yeah.
They would lose a lot. Yes, very sporadic. Definitely a great team. Any case, Astralis, I think the most undisputed era ever, right? And after that would be NIP. After that, I think it's only Astralis. I wouldn't even put FaZe as well, because FaZe is...
think the FaZe super team is a special one?
I wouldn't say so, because I feel like firstly, it was a very short period of time, right? I mean, 2022 was their year, right?
Yeah, they lost to a North American team.
And also, by the way, the second half of 2022 was kind of shit for them. They pulled off the big three. Very rarely happens. Kato, the Major, and Cologne. They did that in 2022, which is phenomenal. But they still didn't have, this dominant feel to them where people are like, oh, they're going to beat everyone, right? So I wouldn't put them as that thing. Also, meta-wise, they didn't do anything crazy. It was more about individuals just playing the FaZe BS style, which really worked out for them, the FaZe Magic or whatever you want to call it. So would you agree that these four teams we said, NIP, Astralis, Fnatic, and I wouldn't even bring the Brazilians into this conversation, because I think that's not an era. 2 months is not an era. I don't think so. Okay. They didn't even win the major.
Pretty short era, if it is.
Also, I think winning a major is absolutely a necessity for them to have an era. Yeah. If Vitality didn't win this major, I wouldn't call it an era. I would wait for the end of the year for them to win Budapest to call it an era. So I think Vitality right now would have done, they have established an era. Right now, it's about... I
think so, for sure.
We all agree on this.
There's no argument about that. I thought the question was going to be, where do they sit?
No. So I'm just saying, even if you can't really have a conversation, if they're the best team in modern day Counter-Strike being CSGO and CS2, even though that conversation maybe you can have a little bit later down the year, I don't think we can argue that they are a team in the same conversation as
they're at least on track for it. There's definitely a conversation to be had.
If they didn't lose a best of one to Legacy, I would say 100%. But
shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up.
Just don't lose, bro. How is it that hard?
You know what? Ironically, and Rob said this as well, them losing that game might have really helped them overall in the major. Because oh shit, thank God, it's over. We don't have to worry about that.
All right, let's move on.
That's a Vitality.
Just quickly to sort of wrap up the season, because this is going to be obviously the last episode of this season of Counter-Strike, which I think is kind of cool. The fact that we can kind of say that, you know what I mean? I don't really feel like we've really been able to do that in the past in the way that the major has capped off the season. Let's talk about VRS season 1. Basically, that's what I'm calling this. This is like VRS season 1. We've capped off, the first season of VRS. What do you guys think about VRS, just as a concept? How it felt? What did you think about this season? Because I honestly kind of feel like it has had me a little bit more invested in Counter-Strike. Like it feels a little bit more cohesive. It feels a little bit better to me, the VRS season. So while I definitely have some issues with VRS and how it's been implemented and MRQs, especially the fact that they've been cancelled and this and that, that's all notwithstanding. But I just think actually the concept of VRS and the season that we've had that has developed from it as a format has actually been really, really good. I've been super invested in this year of Counter-Strike, more so even than in some previous years. And yes, you can maybe put that down to the strong run that, for example, Mongolz have been having. That has, helped as a fan of Asian Counter-Strike. But I just think overall, I would have to say I think VRS has been a positive addition to the Counter-Strike scene.
I don't know. I'm skeptical because I am very worried about how VRS will affect Asia specifically. And although I am invested in Tier 1 CS to some extent, I'm not as invested as I used to be because I have to split my time across multiple esports now and I have to do a lot of Valorant related stuff. So I'm more so focused on Asia CS specifically. And I'm very worried how it will affect Asia CS. I'm particularly worried about OS right now. So I can't say that I'm a huge fan of it right now, but we'll see how it pans out, I guess. And like you guys say every time that I, criticize it and I say, I'm fucking old, I'm a fucking boomer. Why can't we just settle this like men and sit down in front of our PCs at a LAN and qualify for a tournament? I can't live in that fairy tale land. So I guess we need some kind of qualification system. At the same time, though, yeah, I'm pretty worried about the VRS and how it'll impact Asia and how much different stakeholders and different entities don't work together well in esports. And I feel like the good result for VRS in a lot of cases, especially for minor regions, is everything needs to run together smoothly. And it's that just doesn't happen, guys, historically.
I like VRS. I like it as a concept. I agree with you, having worked a few broadcasts where the VRS points were matted for every game. I think it added even more importance and emphasis to every matchup. I love the fact that we have best of 3 deciders right now, for a lot of the events as well. I think it's also pretty cool how everything is kind of interconnected now, event-wise. So conceptually, I think it's a great idea. I think it's a great addition. But this is where I'm going to echo Pilski's reservations, right? With the way the next major is going to be pure VRS right now, I want to see more stories like the Mongolz. I want to see more stories like fucking Quantum Bellator Fire back in the day. We need Counter-Strike. The beauty of Counter-Strike is just 5 guys with a dream and a skill could make it to the big stage, and they could make their lives just from playing this game, right? Right now, I feel like the rich get richer, which I don't want.
VRS is a bit pay to win, for sure.
It's a bit like that. I don't want that to happen. I hate that. That happens in other esports. And look at the state of a lot of these other esports, right? Counter-Strike is great.
Criticism of the whole partnership era and the whole reason why why Valve has put their foot down to try to dissolve that kind of shit.
Yeah,
but I feel like
it's gone full circle, right? Now it's kind of the same thing, except in a different with a different coat, basically. And I feel that it can be ameliorated, it can be fixed a little bit if Valve push for a few changes with some of the TOs. If all these big events have open qualifiers, at least enough number of open qualifiers, that actually takes care of a lot of the issues overall, in all honesty. And also there needs to be some checks and balances to make sure, some one region or a country doesn't, who has got a little bit of money doesn't host. What's stopping some TO from China who cares about, a billionaire from China who cares about Counter-Strike or Chinese Counter-Strike just hosting a fuck ton of events over there and just making the teams farm VRS points, right? It's not fair. And I think it's going to happen at some point. I think that needs to be watched out for. I don't hate it as a concept. There needs to be way more checks and balances. I don't think that's there yet right now.
I just don't see TOs running qualifiers for Australia. I could see them, if they want to put an Asia qualifier on, just put a China or all of Asia qualifier, and the teams that have good enough ping will play in that, and that will be the Asia qualifier. And I think that Australia is going to get hard fucked by the VRS and not have any opportunities to really catch up. I don't see tournament organizers, maybe I see them inviting FlyQuest or something like that. but I don't see them running qualifiers here. I see them just running Asia qualifiers. I think that the Mongolian scene is going to continue riding off the back of Mongol's momentum, and they're going to keep running those kind of tournaments. And I think that China is always a stable region that we can rely on to continue investing in more tournaments, and will be supported by TIGOs because of the player base, the population, and the relative convenience that other Asian tournaments, other Asian countries rather, can potentially play in those tournaments. But I don't see smaller geographical regions or Australia, for example. I don't see where we fit into that at all. I think we're fucked, to be honest, in this system.
It is very possible. It is very possible that Oceania kind of goes the way of, you know, your Middle East or your South Africa or something like that, where it's like kind of there. It's like, hey, we exist, but like you're just not really the focal point. And it's like, if you get to play, it's on high ping or at your own cost or whatnot. And again, that's where VRS, I think, like I said, it does require some tweaking to an extent. But I do also think, generally speaking, at the top end, it has resulted in a pretty overall good format. So there's pros and cons.
Yeah, I think look at OS in Valorant for an example. It's completely non-existent, and I don't really see that changing, to be honest, unless an Oceanic team has an insane run and tries to qualify for Tier 1. But Tier 2 Valorant is a different kettle of fish to what we experience in Counter-Strike. We have different things. But I think opportunity-wise, I'm very worried that OS is kind of cooked.
I mean, you did touch on Valorant, and we do sometimes flirt with Valorant a little bit, Pilski. But I heard PaperX actually won.
Yeah, shout out PaperX.
They did. I mean, it's insane.
Shout out Alex.
Yeah,
Davai as well, and Mindfreak used to play Counter-Strike too.
Yeah, Davai, Mindfreak.
Mindfreak's kind of like their assistant coach in a lot of ways, like on their run. I think PaperX's run has been insane. For very different reasons. Like, they were a non-competitive team at the start of the year. They lost the first like franchise stage to the team that was the worst team in the league, or a lot of people said they were like the worst team in the league for the last couple of years. They played in a round robin group where there's 5 teams in a group, right? So you play, or 6 teams in a group, so you play 5 matches, right? PaperX was 0-3 in their group. They've been 0-3 in series, and they went from 0-3 in series to scraping through to the playoffs, to scraping a 3rd place in playoffs, to winning the world championship with that qualification.
Isn't that just PaperX though, in a nutshell? Like, weren't they? From what I've heard, and again, as someone who doesn't really watch Valorant at all, but they were always like some kind of like cooked cunt team where they would just come out with some wacky, goofy stuff. They would be very inconsistent, very high highs, very low lows. And is it not a little bit expected in a sense? Not that they would win, you know what I mean, but that they would do it in this fashion.
I think it's
that's my perception, at least.
That's a stereotype. I think that's a bit of a stereotype for sure. And I've even said stuff like that. I remember we interviewed Alex, and I said, like, your team kind of plays in like a controlled chaos or something like that. He's like, no, I don't think that at all. Like, I think we have protocols. I think we have structure. We just play more aggressive, or we just play different. And I think there definitely is like structure to their team, and then they play a little bit weird sometimes. But yeah, I think it's a multifaceted thing that would take a podcast of its own. But they have had an insane run. It's great to see ex-CS players have so much success, because you know, we even talked about on our shout out SkinClub, our top 10 Asian CS teams of all time. They were like an honorable mention. Some of the core of that team, although the new era core of that team is more so the relevant players, because it's only really 3 of them left over in PaperX nowadays, and one of them is a coach, and one of them is bench/assistant coaching, and then the one that is playing actively on the team was kind of like the young prodigy that never actually did anything in Counter-Strike. Like, Forsaken was like, this guy was like, oh my god, he could be like
the time in CS.
He was a chosen one.
Yeah, he was the chosen one, and then he was like, he went to cartoon shooter, and now he's like maybe the best player. I mean, a lot of people say he's the best player in the world because he can play everything. Like, that's the thing that he does in Valorant. He's the most flexible player.
What we could have had. But
I know. I was looking at that photo of them, the PaperX team that won, and I was looking, and I was like, that guy was from CS, that guy was from CS, that guy was from CS, that guy was from CS.
Oh, Davai. Why am I forgetting Davai? Davai is actually
Davai, he was there. Dude, he was a pug stomper back in the day, I remember. But just to show how, you know, the love, it kind of transcends the game, even though I don't care about Valorant much anymore. I message Alex. I'm like, yo, forgot to message you yesterday. massive congratulations, my dude. You know, a long time coming to many more. Usual congratulatory message. And his reply is, we almost had a double Asian victory, man. Mongols fucking GOAT, right? I gotta love Alex, dude. Like, legend. I remember this. I forgot who it was that told me this, Pilski, but I remember speaking or asking, was it Nick or whoever? I was like, oh, you guys, you know, your late game's pretty bad. Your mid rounding, it can get a little murky. And they're like, well, that's why we play like there's no mid round or late round. We just try and end it in the early round itself. I forgot who said this. It was so funny. Like,
yeah, like the interesting thing about Paper X is they don't have like a set IGL, I don't think. Like they don't have an IGL. They kind of all it kind of reminds me. I don't know exactly what the cooling structure is. I would love to listen to the comms, to be honest. I don't even know if they have comms videos, or I would love to just sit there and try to dissect exactly what their cooling structure is, because it's very much not really like a traditional TAC FPS style, which is interesting because they have Alex.
It's basically Fnatic 2015 or Pronox is like, all right, guys, do your thing.
Yeah.
Everyone does their thing and they win, you know?
I wouldn't say it's like that. I think it almost kind of reminds, I don't know if this is true actually, but the way that I see them play without listening to the comms, I feel like it's almost kind of like a MOBA where like they do have people, do have more people who kind of guide the team, like voice wise, but people are able all to kind of call over their own plays or make plays and then call they're like, I'm going to do this, and then they kind of react to that.
It's more like very broad macro calling as opposed to like, because I've seen that as well, right? When they get into sites,
it's one or two people probably giving more broad macro, and then it's a lot of more sort of like micro calling where it's like, this is like our general direction, and it's like one guy's like, I'm gonna do this, or like, can you set this up for me? Because Val is different to CS in that way, where like CS is like much more restrictive of like, we're 5 guys with gun, we have fucking flash, smoke, molly, you know, and it's like there's only so many different variations. But Valorant's a clusterfuck of like, you know, pew pew, wizard, fucking utility, airstrike, all that kind of shit.
Fucking so colorful anime game.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on.
All right,
that's so much glazing I can do for Valorant, man. I'm only glazing because I love the PRX guys.
It's amazing that they won. It's an incredible run because they went from being a team that was like people were basically like, this team is horse shit, and I have no idea why. Like, I am so disappointed. Like, they had so many fans that were like, this team is the worst, and they were the people like, I probably like 3 or 4 of the actually everyone but Forsaken on the forums has been called to be kicked from that team by like Reddit experts or VLR experts in the Valorant community. Everyone's like, this player's not good enough. This player can't play this role. This player's not good enough. And the amazing thing to me is they barely made any changes. In fact, they didn't even make an expected change, and they turned around a lineup that was doing terribly at the start of the year to win a world championship. Like,
goes to show how important form is.
Yep.
Like, it would be like a team, maybe like the 18th best CS. Like, let's look at the rankings. Like,
okay, wait,
it would be fucking like, it would be like, I don't even know, like
Pain winning,
Liquid, yeah, like Pain or Liquid or something. Not Pain,
Vision,
like MIBR or some shit. Like, it would be like one team that is, they're not even.
That'd
doing
be insane.
Well.
That'd be insane.
They're kind of shit. They're kind of shit, these tournaments, and then they win the major. You know, that's what we're talking about here.
Would never happen in Counter-Strike. Like, impossible.
Yeah, the difference is like they have players who have made it to the finals. You know, it would have to be a team of players that you're like, they are good enough at their ceiling or at their peak, but they're just playing like dog shit.
It's Tyloo. It's Tyloo.
No. No, here's the thing. Okay, it's not Tyloo, George. Shut the fuck.
What do you mean?
No,
they are dog shit, but they're also good.
No, but how many like Paper X as an org and with a core have reached more deep runs and big events than Tyloo ever have? Right? You agree?
They lost 2 Masters finals before.
Exactly my point. So I feel like, you know, if you're going to, for example, compare what Mongolz,
maybe complexity then.
Right, a Masters and a Champs, so even a bigger tournament than a Masters. Yeah. Like
there we go.
Yeah.
And that's the thing for me at PRX. Like, they're not a shit team. Like, they've had their close, they've had their ups and downs, they've had a lot of ups as well, and now it's time for them to kind of peak, right? So it's not like they're a nobody shit tier team that pulled it off.
They were a top team in the world, and then they hit their biggest rut ever that people were questioning, like, will they ever break out?
It's NIP, bro. It's NIP. It's NIP. Well, I've cracked the code for the CS viewers. It's NIP.
There's not a team that's comparable.
I saw this post on Reddit where it's someone's screen grab from HLTV, and it's like the year 2025. You see Mongolz versus Pain, and it's like highlighted in golden because it's a major fucking semifinals, and below that it's an online cup, NIP versus Fnatic, and it's just fucking green.
Yeah, I
It's
saw that.
real. So real.
That's so funny, dude.
That's basic.
Man, I mean,
What's
look,
up now,
Fnatic was
Tweet?
playing in that
Woo!
Masters final against Paper X, and it was very close. They could have won.
Well, that's where all the money went.
All right, let's move on. Let's move on. There's only so much Valorant talk we can get before we lose all of our viewers. We don't have much long to go anyway in the episode. There's
my
nothing really to
timestamp
discuss.
so they can skip.
Oh, there's always timestamps. But the problem is
Skip
I've said that now
Valorant.
after, so they've gotten all the way here anyway. Look, quickly, a couple of very short topics before we wrap this episode up, because this is now almost becoming the longest episode we've ever done. Fissure Playground 3. I don't know if you guys saw the announcement here that's going to be in China. So 3 events in 2026. The first one of 2026 is going to be in China, which is kind of cool. It's not specifically an Asia CS event, but just kind of goes to show the general sentiment towards Counter-Strike within Asia is a positive one, even from these international TOs. I mean, recently, obviously, we talked about Blast having an event in Hong Kong coming up next year as well. Or is it later this year? I think it's later this year. IEM's been in Chengdu for the last 2 or 3 years. So you're kind of starting to see international TOs show that interest specifically in China. CAC there. They've been there for a while. And obviously, the rise of Counter-Strike in terms of the skill level, you can see with the likes of the Mongolz and even Envision, and to be fair, Tai Lu also didn't do too shabby at this major. Everything's kind of trending positively for Asia, which again, harkening back to that first episode that we ever recorded, Counter-Strike in Asia felt like it was in a very bad place where it was maybe going to die in a year or two. I think right now, Asia is in the best spot it has ever been as far as Counter-Strike is concerned, in some ways.
In a lot of ways.
Yeah, I mean, we have Mongols on a massive run. We have some competitive Chinese teams. We have a lot of tournaments in the region, not only just in China, but fucking Singapore. Blast is doing more heavy lifting than they have any right doing.
Yeah.
I feel like they're fucking just Singapore, Hong Kong, they're fucking around too. They're dipping their toes.
Blast
in.
Australia win. Come on, guys.
Off one in Mumbai as well. I've heard about this.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Legit, there's so many TOs that they don't even have to do shit here, and most of the time it's they most of these TOs, this one is Fissure is doing it in China. Fair enough. I feel like most of the time people just go, yeah, we'll go to China, but we're getting some different locations and shit from TOs that they don't even have to fuck around and do one in Asia.
Also, just to add on to why I think this Fissure thing is super smart from them is because we have proof that fans show up for tournaments in China.
Yeah.
Right? We saw it in the major, we saw it in CAC, we've seen it in Chengdu, we've seen it in IEM Shanghai, all these events, right? Now, Fissure, if they're going to have let's say, some S-tier teams, right? It doesn't have to be all S-tier teams. It's going to be some tier 2 teams, tier 1 teams, etc., etc., etc. But at the end of the day, in the playoffs, if they do a small little arena, doesn't have to be arena, a small little stage with a few thousand people, that will fill out. People will show up. We know this for a fact. So I think for Fissure, and if they did the same thing in EU, it wouldn't pan out. People just wouldn't show up because they're like, guys, we have enough S-tier tournaments happening all the time. This one's too small for us to really show up to. So for me, if Fissure actually make it a small little arena setting for the playoffs, for example, I think that's a genius move coming in from them.
Yep. So who are these Fissure guys? Am I dumb?
You're just not being seen for a while. So Bedboom Dasha is the name of the event. Right.
Oh yeah, I've seen that.
I actually did the first iteration of this last year, and I think it was in Serbia. I think the first one was in Dubai, second one was in Serbia, but the casters were remote from Stockholm. But basically, it's more of a studio event, studio stage event. You know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
They have a nice little stage and everything, small little crowd, a couple of dozen people. And Fissure are basically the organizers, so they are a legit company. And the fact that they're because it's so packed right now, the calendar, and the fact that TOs are looking east to kind of differentiate themselves a little bit from the rest of the EU circuit and maybe get a few more fans coming in. I think it's super cool. And I wish other TOs did that as well. I think that'd be a great idea.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. We'll see how it goes. I'm looking forward to it. More events in Asia. Can't be mad.
Hope we get some Asia invites.
I think they did announce a China qualifier for it.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, I'm looking at like their
Two
number
China
one.
Open qualifiers, one
Fissure
OS Open
Playground
qual, and one
number
Asia
one
Open
looks
qual.
like a lot of European teams and stuff, but that is in Serbia, to be fair. So I'm hoping like a lot of these TOs that do run tournaments in the region will give
Yeah.
opportunities to
Okay, so there is
more
a
Australian teams, perhaps.
there is an Asia closed qualifier, top 5 VRS teams plus 2 Chinese Open qual, 1 OS Open qual, and an Asia
OS.
Open qual. So there is a
Okay.
there is a Asia qual. One team from Asia will qualify. Plus, obviously, whoever gets invited, probably Mongols and
That's
whatnot.
good. That's good.
But yeah, there is open quals for this.
I think
for Asia.
OS is that's the main thing to me. Like I'm very concerned about OS, and the thing that I really want to be counting is like there's going to be a packed calendar. We've talked about it a lot. Our hope is that that will lead to more Asian representation at some of these events because there's a lot of the top teams in the world are going to have to pick what events they attend. They're probably going to take more breaks because they're going to get burnt out, or they're going to have to be a bit choosy with the calendar saturation, right? So we are hoping for opportunities. I'm not really worried actually about opportunities for Asia teams, especially with the after this major for China and Mongolia. But for OS in particular, I want to count how many of these tournaments they will go. Not even to FlyQuest. If they have a decent ranking, like they're just getting it based off of ranking, right? But I'm talking more so about like how many tournament organizers are just going to say Asia qual and not specifically OS. And I want to count how many there are.
I mean, at the
like,
very least, there
many
should be
times?
OS quals to Asia quals, and you'd hope that those would. I mean, the thing is, like, I don't know what is and isn't VRS ranked. That's the problem. You almost need those qualifiers to be VRS ranked for them to be relevant for OS. Because if the qual is an Oceania Open qual into an Asia qual that actually matters, it's like that's all well and good. But then if you have to go and fly to Asia, like that is going to prevent teams that maybe just like a random 5 guys that go, we've qualled, but like I can't afford to spend $5,000 or $10,000. Well, maybe not 10,000. Like you would probably do it cheaper than that. But let's say $5,000 as a collective to go to Asia to play in this tournament.
It's going to be the same shit as before. It's going to be playing online.
Yeah.
That's just what's going to happen.
You're never going to get anywhere.
There's
You're never getting
no
anywhere.
support.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we won't be able to qualify with high ping, or it'll be on Guam. But I don't think that will happen. I
Rooster
think
couldn't even beat
they'll just run
Atox on a Guam server, and Atox was probably trying to throw that game. So I don't even know. Anyway,
So we really suck, huh?
yeah, I guess so. Hey, one quick final thing as well before we do go. The Huns are making some changes as well. We don't really have much to say on this necessarily because there's no news on who's coming in, but Yami has been benched and NCL has been removed from the roster. So kind of not super surprising, I guess, just considering the run that Huns had at the major qualifier, and it's a little bit sad, I guess, just in terms of the fact that the potential of that team did look quite high, but we'll see what happens.
I don't know if the Yami removal is gonna. I don't know. You know what? I don't know.
Yeah,
just gonna wait for the
I think
light
it's just
up.
at that point, where we don't really have much to say. It's just it was worth mentioning. As far as I knew, though, Yami was in-game leading that team, so I don't know. But,
He wasn't in there for very long. He's in there for like 3 months, and then he's back out again.
Yeah, but this is the thing about Yami, and I do sort of have my suspicion that he may not be a great teammate, is that he's kind of always in and out of rosters. Like, there's no doubt that the talent is there, but the reason that he's not stuck in any roster for any significant length of time has been, I think we've heard some sort of rumblings that he's maybe a little bit of a interesting character in the team.
It is also kind of damning, and I hope this changes. Hopefully changes the next 1 year or year and a half, right? Because Mongolz, the gulf between Mongolz and the rest of the Mongolian scene is insane. Like, genuinely, have you seen? It's almost similar to like the old Renegades in Australia and Oz, but I feel like even then there were chances of them. It's way bigger.
Yeah.
It's insane. Like, you have a major grand finalist, right? And then his second best team right now, I mean, who can still play, Atox doesn't exist anymore. Huns are just making changes. I don't rate these Chinggis Warriors that high as well. Like, you don't really have any teams, and not a single one, who's anywhere in the same solar system as the Mongols.
They're in a different galaxy.
And I really hope that changes. But again, once again, it comes down to someone like Maaraa, this guy, the godfather of Mongolian Counter-Strike, who was able to gather all these pieces together around his orbit. But I hope it happens, because I just look at a number of people who are now probably going to be getting into Counter-Strike, who are already playing Counter-Strike right there. There are some Bazinios, there are some 910s, there are some Technos, Blitzes, and fucking Senzus 100% out there. They just need to be found and molded the right way, because the talent is there. They just need to be guided. And I feel I hope everyone wakes up in Mongolia and kind of pays attention to that.
We
Or else it's going to be a wasted opportunity.
Need a new org, make a Mongolian super team with the top 3 teams. But most importantly, we need like Machine Gun or Zilkenberg or like Sogu or NCL or something, some combination of those cunts in like dad status. Like convince them that they are dad status, and then we have a chance.
Maara's just got to get the boys around for a goat barbecue and lay down the law.
All right,
let them know. Barbecuing.
So we got Machine Gun. The guy's a massive dude, right? Like no one's gonna talk shit to him. Pilski, you coach, right? I'll manage. I'll take care of everything else. All right. Jordan, you do whatever the fuck you have to. Join in. Okay, we get someone to sponsor us.
From watching Genghis Warriors, coaching them would make me want to fucking bash my head into a wall. I'm not gonna lie.
All right, I will dip in as well. We do this together, and we drink every fucking night. All right, like every night. Like
Genghis beer, by the way, is actually pretty cheap and not too bad. I'm sure you had some over there.
Yeah, it's all right. It's all right.
Finally get the alcohol sponsor we were looking for.
We need to do a IRL, geographically superior episode one time. It's been a while.
Family
month. Because think about it, man. Like, but Mitch, like this is the time, right? Like all these years we've had like few IRL, but now the Asian CS is finally on top.
Maybe if some TOs would hire us.
I can't help
that'd
them.
be great. So hire us, you cunts.
I'm just saying, would we not be the most goated analyst desk on an Asia CS tournament? Like, why is Mesa not hiring the 3 of us? Why is fucking ACL not? Bro, that shit would fucking slap.
Bro, the amount of fucking clips it'd get, right? Like, it'd be so good.
Anyway, just a thought for next year, ACL.
Just hire us, you cunts, right?
I've never done an analyst desk in my life, so I don't know if I'd be comfortable.
And I say cunts in a very in
an
nice
Australian way, in an
Australian friendly way. How is it cunts? But also the next episode we ever do live, it'd just be in a pub, just all of 3 of us getting fucking shit faced. Not even doing anything.
It'll be the worst episode, but maybe the best episode.
It might be the most watched episode ever.
Have a beer in one hand and a goat leg in the other.
Yep.
Yeah. Just eating goat legs.
Highlights.
All right. Let's wrap it up. That's it.
Mongols on top.
Mongols on top.
Mongols on top. I'm sorry, I was wrong. You guys were all right. Okay, I was wrong.
It wasn't me.
I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't know what I'm talking about. Techno is the best player ever. Mongolz is the best team. I'm fucking dumb. You guys are smart. You guys show up into, what is it called? What's the square?
Sukbata Square.
You guys showed up at 4 a.m. at the Sukbata Square, and they made a major final. So I'll shut the fuck up now.
Everyone needs to give Pilski some love in the Twitch chat or in the YouTube chat so that he doesn't cry himself to sleep tonight.
No, also, give me some hate.
Doesn't he look way more Irish than I do? I'm just saying, if he's the Irish racist, not me.
I think I'm a little bit
exactly. He's so red. All right. On that note.
Like, comment, subscribe. Obviously, really appreciate the support over the last 6 months or so. This is going to be the last episode before a little bit of a break. I'm sure we'll take a few weeks at least until the next season of CS starts to sort of spin up a little bit. There will be, I would say, a SkinClub episode next month, so you won't be without us for that long. But if you're so inclined, go check that out. Obviously, shout out SkinClub. We do appreciate their support, of course. And if you want to give us some of your financial support, you can do that on buymeacoffee.com/Elfishguy. You can support on a monthly basis with a membership or just as a single, hey, the Mongols won. You're excited. Give me some money. Why not? I won't say no. If you really like this episode. Otherwise, we would just love a comment or
you're such an Indian man.
Yeah, money. That's what the world is run by. But either way, look, even a comment in the chat just to shout it out. Boost the algo. Do what you need to do. Send us a like. Do that kind of thing. Sub to the channel, or join the Discord, or just follow everyone on Twitter. Anything. We love Asian CS, so hopefully you're along for the ride with us, and we'll see you next season. Peace out. Hey guys, just at the end of that video and heading into 2025, I want to give a massive shout out to Jean, who has been a big supporter of mine on buymeacoffee.com/Elfishguy. She's been a member for over 12 months. And if you'd be interested in supporting my content and getting this content grind going, then head over there as well and check it out. Thank you very much.